Good day, everybody. Thank you for participating in today's masterclass. And I thank everybody for participating in today's masterclass session. So, this is going to be the first season and the episode one for for this year's masterclass, where we will be starting with the basic configurations and looking into how you can get started with Services Plus. So, whether you can be a old customer who's a seasoned customer who's willing to start your own process from scratch, and at the same time if you're an new user who just acquired Services Plus and you're looking to get into the basics, I hope this masterclass would be your go-to to understanding all of your basic configurations that you could possibly perform within Services Plus so that you could get started. Because once you get a hold of the basics, of course, all of your processes that you will be implementing in Services Plus will be much more easier in comparison. And I will also like to take my time to introduce myself. I'll be your host. My name is Benedict, and I'm a product specialist who's been with ServiceDesk Plus for over 4 years. And within the 4 years, I've delivered customer success and support operation all throughout the regions. So let's get started with today's masterclass. And if you have any feedback or any queries that you have that you might have missed asking in the masterclass, you can feel free to write to us directly. You can write to me to benedict.j@zohocorp.com, or to the official line, which is hello@servicesplus.com. I will repeat the email once again so you can make a note of it. My email would be benedict.j@zohocorp.com, and the Services Plus email would be hello@servicesplus.com. All right. So let's move into the agenda for today's masterclass session. What we will be looking into configuring with Services Plus, and what does Services Plus offer in general to suit all of your ITSM needs. So we will be looking into setting up your instant configurations, how you can configure your mail server settings to convert incoming emails directly into tickets, so you could make Services Plus much more accessible to the users, how you could customize help desk field attributes, what are the default available help desk field attributes that are there, and whatnot. Let's dive right in and start to see all of the various ways on how you could configure Services Plus from scratch, right? So I'm going to set a little context here just so I could put myself onto your shoes. So I'm going to be an IT administrator, and I have recently acquired Services Plus. So, and now since I've acquired Services Plus and I've installed the application, I am now standing in the administrator page, and I just want to know what else should I do to proceed further. So, of course, there comes the first part of today's agenda with the masterclass, where we will be looking into configuring our instance and also adding the users into Services Plus. So how will we get all of our users inside Services Plus? What are the various features that we have? How can we configure different branches as sites? What are the role privileges that are possibly there? And what are users and what are even technicians? All of these, we'll be diving right into it. So let me just quickly change my screen. And right now I'm logged in as a technician, as an administrator in one page, and I'm logged in as a user named Jen on the other page, where as you can see the stark difference that the technician page and the user page is much more different, because the user page has direct access to the self-service portal where they could go ahead and get the raise incidents or services alike, right? So the topic right now is all about me as an IT administrator. I have install the application, and the first thing that I'm seeing here is the admin page. So now our first goal is to import all of the users. So how can we import all of the users? It's very, very simple with Services Plus, because you can import the users using your Active Directory, which would be under admin users. But at the same time, I am using Services Plus in the Enterprise Edition with more than one instance. So for me, the options might be a little different, where the available option for Active Directory will be available under the ESM directory option. So once you head over here, you have Active Directory. All you have to do is you would have to sync all of your domain details with ServiceDesk Plus. And once you sync your domain details, you can add all of your OUs that needs to be imported, which contains the user that needs to be imported directly into Services Plus. And of course, this is not a manual schedule as well, because this schedule can be done automatically with all of the import schedules that you possibly have. So you could configure either a delta import or a full import. Delta in the sense only certain differences of the users information can be synced at regular within 30 minutes. And of course, there's a full import where all of the users will be again imported from the Active Directory. And of course, you also have the sync delete users option to ensure that all of the users that get deleted from the Active Directory can also be deleted in Services Plus. This is the Active Directory approach to, of course, import all of the users from your OU and from your domain. Now, we also have another way to import the users, and that will be using the LDAP. So if you're not using the Microsoft Active Directory, of course, and if you're using any other active, open AD softwares, or if you're Linux-based server and you have different AD nature that is available here, you could use the LDAP functionality, and all you could do is you could just enter the credentials, the search criteria needed, and Services Plus will get the users and import them into the application. And of course, let's just say there is also another case where if you are doing it the old fashioned way, where you have a CSV and you have all of the users in your CSV, and you differentiate who the users are directly from the CSV in itself. In those cases, what you could do is you could just head over to admin users or even ESM directory users, and you could use the new import from CSV, and you can just get all of the users directly into Services Plus and manage them in one go. And of course, we also let manual work to be available, where if you just click on new, you can add a new user manually into Services Plus. These are the various ways I could get all of my users into the application. So once all of my users are there in the application, you could see them under admin users or ESM directory users. Now, every user that is available, that is imported either from the Active Directory, from the LDAP, or even manually or using a CSV, will first be added as a user. And now it's up to us, the IT administrators, to make that understanding that who will be a user and who will be a technician who will be working on the various operations and processes that needs to be assigned. So that will have to be assigned from the admin user page, where you could just select the users and then go to action, change as technician. So once you have changed the users as technician, you have a dedicated place to view all of the technicians, and that will be under admin technicians. So this will be your place to see all of the technicians that are available within the application, and of course, technician logins and the amount of people you can make as a technician is dependent on your license configuration and how much you have purchased for your number of technician logins. So we have imported all of the users and now made a difference between what a user is and what a technician is. Let us see into grouping the users, because we have the support groups and user groups to ensure that users and technicians are put in one bucket. So we have the support groups dedicated for the technicians. So it could be the network guys or the DevOps guys or something like that. You can maintain certain groups and add them over into this and add the technicians into the support groups. So how would you add a support group? It's simple. Just click on add new group, and here you could just add all the related technicians that belong to the specific support group. that is available here. You would also have notifications, that you would like to send for the technicians who are in the group when a request comes by, and also group mail settings. I will come back with the regarding the group mail settings, because we also have mail server settings in our agenda. So when I cover the mail server settings, I will trace back to the group mail settings, so you can have an even more understanding on where this will help you. And moving forward, we also have the user groups, which will contain all of the users. Notice that the user groups can be the managers that you keep inside the application. That they don't need to have a technician license. They can just be in a group where they could just oversee all of the requests. You could probably do that. If you have VIP users, you can group them and place them accordingly. So how do you add a user group? It is simple as adding a support group. Just click on new and notice the difference where, the support groups is where you would have to add technicians one by one, because that is based on the license. But for the user groups, that is not the problem, because you can have n number of users and you can just select the criteria and add the users to the group. So we now understood who is a technician, who is a user, and how can we group these users. So let's now understand what value does a technician bring into the application, and what type of access levels or permission does a user bring into the application, right? So let me go to admin users really quick. And once I move into admin users, let me take any user that is there. So let us take Nagaraj as a user, and I'm going to edit him. And this is the user page that you see. You can see all of the details that will be, of course, synced from the AD. You have the primary email, secondary email, who is he reporting to, and all these other details. And now you also have this option, which gives even more access privilege responsibilities, where you can let the requester to allow viewing his own request, all their department requests, all their site requests, and even every request that is there in the organization. So this is how the users can have certain privileges and permissions. Now let's go and look at the technicians, because it is quite different and have much more added functionality to it. So if I go back to admin technicians and let me edit, for example, the technician Danya, you can see all of the various details that were there for the user, of course, which is there for the technician. But when I scroll down, you could see that a technician can be added in more than one sites, associated to more than one support group, of course, and also they have the assigned rules. So by default, within the application, ServiceDesk Plus is a ready-to-use software where we normally provide all of the various options for you to choose from. But of course, it is up to you to also add your own, new roles and privileges necessary. So assigned roles is where you could give much more access privileges for the technician. So how can you add roles for the technician? It is very much simple. All you'd have to do is you'd have to go to admin roles. The admin section is also on the left hand side, so I use all of the pointings here from the left hand side, because I feel it's very easy for me. So if I go to admin roles, and here you could see all of the roles that are available by default. Anything that is not editable and deletable, of course, is a predefined role. And of course, we have the SD admin role, which will provide access to the admin console, where the technician can make any changes necessary. So let's go and add a new role, right? So when I click on add a new role, you can provide a role name, of course, and see all of the permissions that you could provide to every process that is there within the application. You have a lot of add, edit, and delete permissions. And when I scroll down, you also have the access permission for the technician. What will you allow the technician to view? Whether you would like to make him view all of the requests, all that is associated to his sites that is available here. Let me go to technician, and also all in group and assigned to technician. And if you'd have to provide access privileges only and the technician can only see the tickets that are assigned directly to him. So these are all the various ways that you could possibly do with the roles that are given here in ServiceDesk Plus. So we understood what role privileges does both the user and technician carry, because now we have imported all of the users, and the users and technicians are now living in the application. So now let's look into another configuration that is much more important when it concerns Services Plus. So let's just say you are an organization, is you are having an organization with multiple different branches. That could be one branch in California, and there could be another branch in, for example, Washington, right? So you don't need to go ahead and install a new Service Desk Plus in Washington and a new application there in California, and then understand how tickets can be related with each other. We don't have to do that, because we have the concept of sites to ensure that all of these various branches can be actioned upon from one specific instance in itself. So if I go ahead to admin sites, you can configure all of your various branches within Services Plus. So for example, let me take the Amsterdam site, right? So if I edit the site, we have certain site-specific configurations. And these site-specific configurations are the refer settings and the custom settings. So by default, when you boot up Service Desk Plus, right, we will have the default site setting known as not associated to any site. So you once you did not understand the concept of the sites, you would have configured all of the operational hours, the holidays, the technicians, support groups, and service level agreements, business rules, all of these under one site. And you now have the requirement to add a lot of branches, and you are now wondering how you could relate all of these settings with one another. The best thing that you could do, if the certain sites are what to say closely related with each other, you could use the refer settings. What does refer setting do? So let's just say Amsterdam site right here is now referring to the default site settings. So any configuration that I performed in the default site setting is now true for Amsterdam site as well. So if I make any changes to the operational hours, or even had new holidays, that will be reflected in the Amsterdam site. So I don't need to go ahead and manually configure them again. The refer site settings, when I configure it based on one site, it will give me a hand, so that, because all of the configurations will be spread out accordingly. And then you have the custom settings, which is of course self-explanatory, because once you choose custom settings, it just means that this site is now a blank setting for you, and you would have to configure all of the operational hours, the holidays, the support groups, or if this site has unique business rules into it, you could definitely add using the custom settings. So this is how you could go ahead and configure the sites, and make sure that if you have any branches, you can just equate it in one specific instance. All right, so now that we are done with it, we also have the organization roles that you could put in place. So this would be the roles of all of the users in your organization, the people acquiring position. You could just mark them directly here in Services Plus using the organization's roles, whether it be a CEO, CIO, the department in charge, regional manager, site in charge. All of them can be configured directly here. So this is the first agenda. So we have now, as an IT administrator, getting Services Plus and getting to understand how it works. I have now imported all of my users. All of my users and technicians are now living inside the application in different branches using sites, and I know who are the people in position here because I have mentioned the organization roles. So all of my people are now living in the application. But now let's look and see how we can make Services Plus much more accessible to our people in the application where we can allow them to create requests using email. So we are going to now learn and understand how we can configure the mail server settings, what are the different types of mail server settings that we offer, and even email commands. So let's quickly go to the admin console once again. And once I go head over to admin, we have the mail server settings that is available here. So to get the incoming email requests to be sent to your email, the email that you configure and convert them as requests, we will have the incoming settings. So of course, when you head over to the incoming settings, we will have all of the various configurations that are available here. If you're using POP IMAP, POP S, and IMAP S, feel free to use all of the connection protocol that suits your need. Of course, if you're using EWS, you go with the OAuth setting, and of course, Microsoft Graph as well. So another tip for customers right here who are using EWS in the cloud, I will suggest you to move to Microsoft Graph as soon as possible, because Microsoft is now planning to deprecate the Outlook API that corresponds to EWS cloud. So it'll be better to move to a graph to ensure that the mail server settings work as expected. But if you're using on-premise, feel free to use EWS in the on-prem, and that should not cause any trouble. And yeah, this concerns the incoming settings. We also have the outgoing settings to facilitate email conversations and sending emails directly from ServiceDesk Plus, or whether it be email notification that needs to be sent. It all concerns directly here. So of course, if you have all of your configurations from incoming, and you can just uh, paste the same over to outgoing if they are from the same mailbox, and if they are different, you can make the required configurations. We also have spam filters, which will block unnecessary emails from coming into ServiceDesk Plus. Unnecessary in the sense, any out of office emails or automatic reply emails, postmaster delivery failed emails. You could just put it in add it in a criteria, and ServiceDesk Plus will reject these emails from getting created as a ticket. And then we have, of course, the email commands, where your users can simply add in the commands into their emails. Instead of typing a long paragraph, you can educate your users to make use of these commands while they're creating a request, so that once a request gets created, all of the related information will come filled out as and when needed. So for example, you have operation add request, category, subcategory, and item. So you can instruct your users to add the specific commands directly in the email thread. And then once it goes into Services Plus, a request gets created with the category, subcategory, and the item assigned directly inside. This is how email commands work. Then we have the delimiter, which will facilitate and help you to append certain emails as conversations. So for example, if a user is trying to compose a new email, but then wants to add it as a related to another request, then he would have to add the limiter, base delimiter, hash, or anything of that you can change from your end, and then add the request ID, so that the email that is sent to will be referenced as a conversation. So these are the various email settings that we have. Since we are on the topic of email settings, I also mentioned about the support group email address, right? So let's go to support groups, and let me also cover that certain aspect as well, where for example, let me edit any support groups, and you would have the email address of that support group. So for example, you can create your alias emails of your incoming settings to relate it to your support groups and add them as a group email. So the best thing about this is that the user who belongs to, for example, this is a DevOps support group, right? So if it's a DevOps request that or DevOps issue that you would like to raise into it, he need not go ahead and raise it from the incoming settings email address. Instead, you could add your alias of that email, such as devops at servicesplus.com. So when the requester directly goes ahead and raises a request from the group email. The request will be created and the group will be and this DevOps group will be automatically assigned in the request. I will show you about how group assignment will happen, because that is where the automation section comes in, of course. All right. So these are the various ways on how you could make Services Plus be accessible for the users and raise requests through email, right? Okay. So now let's look into the next agenda about the help desk fields that are available in Services Plus. So we have a lot of predefined already available fields that are there, and each has its own functions and privileges that you need to know so that you could use them better, right? So let us go into so before we head over to all of the fields that are there, I would like to show you how you can create a template in Services Plus. Just a brief overview, because me as a requester right here, if I am using the self-service portal, I can just report an issue directly by choosing certain templates that I have added in Services Plus. So by using this template, me, our Jen, who's the user over here, can raise her complaints on the go, right? So how do we do that? So we would have to go for templates and forms, incident template, and here you could create your new template. So once you click on add new template, you could see all of the various fields that you could of course add, and these are the various fields that we are going to understand and learn right after this. You also have the available fields, and you could also add additional fields of various flavors that you see here. And you could also this is the technician view that is there. You can also provide view for the requester. Then you have associate support groups to template, and if I enable show to requester, I would have associate user groups to template. Another way to have limit accessibility, such that if I have this template and only the DevOps group should see it, then I could just associate it to the DevOps group, and other members of the group such as hardware, HRH advisory will not even see this template. Same goes for the requester as well. Yep. And once I add the requester, you could see the requester name. I'll give it as test template. This is the technician side and the requester side, and you would see the various workflows that are available here. I will take another template so you could understand how it goes. So we'll take legal sample, and you would have the technician name. I click on show to requester. You'd also have the requester side of things, which you could either copy all of the fields directly from the technician or limit accessibility and let the requester see only few options. And of course, we have the workflow where you could set your approval levels and the field inform rules. Now, we are not going to look into the workflows in general, because we are going to look directly into the functionalities of various fields that are available in the application. So let me go back to the admin section and go back to customization help desk to show you how each field relates with each other. So once we have help desk, you have the category where you could understand how each services are categorized in your organization. You can add your category, the subcategory that comes under it, and also the item that you'd like to relate with it. You have the tree view for you to easily distinguish how are categories, subcategories, and items related on the go, right? Now we have status. So status indicates the progress of the request in general. What is my request progress? Is it still open? Or is it requiring certain attention from me? All of that you can configure it from the status. Of course, status are of two types: in progress and completed status. In progress are all your open status, your waiting on customer status. Completed are of course your closed status, your resolved status, your cancel status, all of that comes under here. And when it comes to the in progress status, we have two more types, which is called stop timer statuses. Let's just say you have a on hold status that has to because you're requesting something from the user, and in that time Since the user is not replying, it's best to ensure that the timer is stopped. You could add them directly in the status right here. And of course, we also have level, which determines the type of complexity of the request. You could add even more levels as you can, or it is already available by predefined. Then we have the mode to help you understand how did the request first reach Services Plus. So another fact about mode is that this field will be added by automatically. So if a request comes into Services Plus through email, then the mode field will be set to email automatically. If a requester, of course, like Jen, raises it directly from ServiceDesk Plus from the self-service portal, then the mode will be automatically assigned as web form. So next we have impact, which will determine the large scale impact that it will affect your business, and what are the various parameters in which your business gets affected, if it's a high priority incident or if it's a low priority incident or something like that, that you could add right here. Then the urgency, which is how fast would you like to complete the request, how fast will the requester need a specific service to be delivered directly to him, that you could configure right here. And then we have the priority, which will determine how much attention is probably needed for the request and how faster should it be completed. Now we have of course, since we are managing, so help the system. When you look at a requester, every priority for them is always a high priority. Their laptop doesn't work, it's a high priority for them to complete it. But organization wide, as a technician, that is not high priority for me. For me, high priority means something that is impacting the organization as a whole. So how can I stop my users to stop abusing this priority field, and just who just keeps sending me high priority incidents? So whenever I log into Services Plus, only thing I see is high priority incidents. That is where the priority matrix come into play. So priority matrix is where you can define with the impact and urgency that the user provides, to ensure that the priority is added accordingly. I'll show you a quick example. So let me just go ahead and choose a template called as network problems right here, and you could see the priority matrix in display. So we have the impact. So for me, let me I'm a requester here, and I'm saying that my laptop doesn't work as much. So I know as a requester, I'm logging into Services Plus, and I say that impact. For me, it's okay. For me, it's a bigger impact, but for an organization, it's not. So I'm just going to put it as medium, and the urgency as maybe high. You could see the priority gets changed automatically as medium. But let's just say I'm a user and I'm not unable to access my Azure account or my email account. That is a high priority, of course, because once I'm able to access that, only I could be able to get my work done. So I'm going to put my impact as high and the urgency as high, and the priority matrix will get the priority as high. So of course, this gives your technician some breather, of course, because you are letting the users select their inputs, but of course you are using the priority matrix to manipulate how the priority will work in your favor, right? And then we also have the request type to just categorize your request, the type of request that is coming here. Then we have the task type and the work log types that you could probably associate to all of your tasks and work logs into your request. We will look into them once we dive deeper into the automation part, right? And then you also have closure codes to determine how the request gets closed and how you can tag the request as a close, whether it's completed or whether it's just a successful closure or incomplete closure or something like that. You could have them added under closure code, right? Okay, so these are the various features and functions of the already existing fields that we currently have with ServiceDesk Plus. Now we get into the most interesting part of automating a lot of functions within Services Plus. So this is my favorite part that I would like to, showcase to all of you all on how Services Plus can help you automate even the smallest task or even a lot of complex tasks with all of these options. So we are going to look into business rules, service level agreements, right? Technician auto assign to help you automatically assign the technicians, build custom actions using custom trigger, or even send your timely reminders using timer actions, create closure rules when a ticket gets closed, and also set up notification rules. So while we head over into the automation section, I would like to put it into two parts, right? One is when the request gets created, right? When Jen creates a request and she only has the urgency and impact as seen before, then we have an automation with the priority matrix, which will give us the appropriate priority that needs to be added into Services Plus, right? Now the request is created, right? And the request here is that I'm going to take it as a major incident, right? The major incident here is that the Azure application is down, and a lot of users are reporting it. As you can see, there's no application down showing up. There is also people saying that they are facing slowness over here in my IT application. So let's go into application down, right? Let's head over directly into the request. So once I head over into the request, what are all the various things that needs to be automatically categorized for me, right? So once a request gets created, of course, the first thing for me is to set the deadline. Until when should I complete this request? So how can I set the deadline? And that will be under admin service level agreements. Let me go to admin real quick, and this will be fully in the automation section. Under automation, service level agreements. So once my request gets created, I should have a dedicated deadline set automatically to it, because that is the uh, uh, fulfillment that I give to my users and my customers to ensure that their request and incident will be solved in a specific set amount of time, right? So we have the incident SLAs and the service SLAs, of course. For incident SLAs, it will be added based on a criteria, because incident is any issue or a disruption that happens in your organization that, of course, is never in our control. It just happens automatically. And since it happens in that manner, we are adding SLAs by matching criteria based on all of the various fields that you see here. So, of course, once you add your criteria, you can match the request on how long it should take to be responded within which set amount of days or hours, and how long it should take to be resolved. For high priority requests, of course, you can get a maximum of over 18 hours or 16 hours or so that you can add directly from here. And of course, you can make this even more stricter by making the SLA run irrespective of holidays or operational hours. Even if it's a Saturday or Sunday, you want your technicians to work, you can enable this option that is available here. And then comes the escalation part. With ServiceDesk Plus, in every SLA, we provide one level of escalation for response overdue and four levels of escalations for resolution time, right? So once I go, if the specific response time that I've added as 4 hours, if the technician didn't respond within 4 hours, what should be the action that should be undertaken? You can escalate either to your ticket owner or various other users or department heads that you need. And of course, we have the escalate before and escalate after, which is a proactive and a reactive approach to escalate the request, right? So I would always suggest a reactive approach, because since you're already escalating it before a set amount of time, you are giving the technician an idea that and sort of an information earlier saying that you have to hurry up because the set amount of time is is going to be violated. So and then he can make the required change. But of course, if it still doesn't happen, we also have various actions that you could perform, where I could place it in a different group, assign it to a different technician, set a different priority, and also set a different level. Same goes for resolution as well. If it doesn't get closed within 16 hours, we have 4 levels of escalation. Escalated to one person. If that person doesn't do it, escalated to the second level, third level, and fourth level. This is how SLA works. Then you see OLA, operational level agreements. What could OLA mean? It is nothing but your internal assessment of how a specific support group works in Services Plus, right? And works to finish or complete the request. So it is it is for your own internal evaluation and internal challenge that you set with the group that will be useful for KPIs, of course. And of course, this is how the incident SLA that can be added through a criteria, of course. And we also have service SLAs that you could add under admin service level agreements, or you can associate the SLA directly into the template under admin service catalog when you're designing the template. As you can see, the SLAs that can be associated to the template here. So when it comes to adding a SLA, however, it's different because uh, in an incident SLA, we are choosing certain criterias for the SLA to be added. While for the service SLA, that is not the case, because we are service is all about a value that you provide to your users in the organization, right? So based on that concept, we have made sure that the users can either select what type of SLA they need from when they request a service, or you can also make sure that the service SLA be applied through a criteria by using the business rules. So we have business rules as well, which are low code automations to ensure that based on certain criteria that you configure within ServiceDesk Plus, a certain set of actions should be performed. So we have the service business rules here, where you could set the SLA directly by adding a criteria, right? So based on the criteria, if the subject is new hire, then the new hire standard onboarding employee SLA will be set automatically in the request. So now let's get back to the request here. My request first reaches Services Plus, and automatically, due to the SLA that we just saw before, the due by date is set, and all of the escalation levels are set. Now, when I look into this request, you can see some of the details are not assigned correctly, right? It just feels a bit emptier. How can I, once the request comes into Services Plus, when a user goes ahead and inputs certain request into the application, either through self-service or email, how can I fill all of these information directly, or even direct it to a different template? That is where we are going to look into low code automations using business rule, right? So all you have to do is you'd have to go to admin, automation, business rules. And here we have incident business rules for incident requests, for service requests, for even when you create a note, and also when any notification lands into Services Plus as well. So let me show you a business rule that is already available, which is called as critical priority assignment, right? For high priority incidents. So in my case, I have created a business rule where you could add your rule name, of course, and you can execute the business rule when either a request gets created, when a request gets edited, or when a request gets moved to trash or deleted permanently as well. So these are all the various actions in which a business rule can be executed. Now, you can execute the business rule during any time, or within the operational hours, or even outside the operational hours. Now, when it comes to cascade execution, let me open the business rule on another page, because we saw that you could create business rules based on groups. So in this patch, there are 6 rules in general. So cascade execution comes here to help you understand whether whether a certain request needs only one rule to be executed, or all of these rules in combination have to be executed on one request. So you have the execute next rule to, so that once this rule gets executed, execute the network issues rule. And or if only one rule needs to be executed, you can just add the skip remaining rules in this group and skip remaining rules across all groups. Next, you can define your criteria such that if the subject is a set amount of time, set amount of keywords, for example, unable to access or something like that, then then the corresponding action should come apply. You could do that as well, or you can just have no condition for the business rule. And then we come to the actions. What are the various actions that we offer when it comes to business rule? Right now you see that I have a if nested sequence, which could of course help you with complicated or complex variations of rules that you could add. So let me click on new custom action, and you could see that you could add a field update. So based on a criteria, you could add what type of field gets updated. For example, if the category needs to be filled out or something like that. And of course, you have the custom function, which is a deluge proprietary script that we use within the application. The script can be stored in the application itself and can be used to perform various automation actions such as adding a approver, or adding a task automatically or something like that. Then we have execute script. We offer two flavors of scripts that can be executed: the Python and the PowerShell that you can add right here. Then of course we have the if and if else statements for a lot of a conditional based action experience that you could have. A lot of nested actions. For example, in this if statement, I've mentioned that the condition subject contains application down, then update all of these fields. And also, if the mode is from email, then make the technician, whoever is logged in, assign directly to it. So these are the various ways that you could automate certain functions using business rule. And even with business rule, if you think that it is only available for field updates, it can also restrict tickets from being created. For example, we have negate requests here. Let's take an example where you see that I have a lot of application down issues going on. Me as an IT administrator, I know that the Azure, there is something wrong with the network that is making sure that Azure is inaccessible for the users, and we are currently working on it. And since there are more than 100 users in my organization, of course I'm going to get 100 tickets, and I don't want to deal with 100 tickets, right? Because currently I have 10 tickets and I can deal with them, because once I understand the root cause, I can just resolve it and publish an announcement to the users. So how can I restrict this information? By using the abort process execution tab. So I have a condition here saying that subject contains unable to access, and the negate action that comes here. So Jen right here, when she raises a request with the subject as unable to access, then she will get this message for negate reason showing up, saying that we have already received a multitude of requests, please be patient, we are making a note of that. So a request will not be created, but the user will have the message showing up, and they will understand that, of course, okay, so we just have to be patient, and the IT administrators would help us accordingly. Yeah. So uh so that is more about the business rules, where of course let's move back to the application now. So the request got created, and what the first thing happened was we were able to add the SLA, and then we were able to categorize the request much more efficiently using business rule, and also we were able to restrict certain requests using the business rules. And now you also have technician being assigned automatically. So how can I automatically assign the technician? And that is where the technician auto assign comes into play. Again, under admin automation, we have technician auto assign. So technician auto assign is where you will assign a technician automatically. So you can choose between a round robin or a load balancing model, and then execute the technician auto assign and a request is created, edited, or both, right? You can also exclude certain technicians. For example, you don't need to have a reporting to or a lead or a IT administrator to be assigned to a request. You can simply exclude them, so that once a request gets created, automatically using the modes either round robin or load balancing, the request gets added accordingly. So this is how these are all the various automations that you could use. One is to add the SLAs, categorize them with business rules, and also use them, assign a technician automatically using technician auto assign. Now, as the request gets going on, right, and we have all of the conditions in place, right? So I want to go ahead and send a reminder to my technician saying that, hey, look at this, the due by date is already increased. Can I send a reminder to my technician saying that, hey, are you working on this? Like, what is exactly going on into this request? Yes, you could do that, and that will be using the request timer action. So that is same way under admin automation, we have request timer action, where you can add time-based automations for your requests. So for example, if you want to send a reminder when the technician when the SLA elapses, you could use the request timer action. When you click on new, you can associate the action for all the templates or only for selected templates alone, match the criteria that is needed, and of course, add your initial delay. Whether it can be a user defined, where you let Services Plus know that you would have to wait for 2 hours and then send a reminder, or take a value from your date field duration. For example, wait before 1 hour of your due by date, or even the completed date, or anything that you see here. We have the repeat cycle, which can send repeated reminders if there is no response from the technician. And also, you can consider the delay time to work only in business hours or only in SLA hours, and also pause timer on hold. Yep. And then you have the during rules and after rules, proactive and reactive approach, where you could send out customized notification. So if I click on send notification, you could see that it is much more similar with using business rules, of course, where you could send out the notification. You send out a custom notification, and the users, and you're sending a custom notification to the requester. We could also send it directly to a technician, and then add your own information over here. So for example, if I just hit dollar, it has all of the related variables that you could choose from. So this is how you could send out reminders using the request timer action. And of course, once we are back into the request, if I need to send out maybe an approval, or an even just a customized notification, not just with timer, but just based on certain conditions, you could also do that, and that will be using the custom triggers. So custom triggers are also low code automations that you could possibly use, which has its own which is similar to the business rules. But if you need more amount of automation operations to choose from, you could use the custom triggers to trigger any rule, any action that you need to perform based on the criteria. Of course, we also have the notification action, the custom function scripts, normal Python or PowerShell scripts. If you have any Java classes that you like to execute, you could do that. If you have a webhook, need information from your office website that needs to be published in Services Plus, you could do that. And of course, the if and if else traditional conditions. So let's circle back to the request. So once the request got created, I had my SLA in place, I had my technician already assigned, I had all the categories added in general. Using the custom triggers, I was able to probably send out an approval or send out a notification. Using the timer action also, I was able to send out reminders. Now the ticket is about to be closed. So are there any automations that are available in ServiceDesk Plus during the closure of the request, right? So an answer is yes. And all we have to do is go head over to admin again and go to automations, closure rules. So in closure rules, the first thing that you see here is that you could mandate certain fields to be added such that only when these fields are added, the request can be closed. Best example is to have the resolution always ticked out, because a resolution is always needed for every request, so that when a technician closes the request, resolution is always mandated. A technician is forced to add the resolution and then close the request. If you want to send out user acknowledgement, you could do that, or you could use yes or no. If all of the tasks are completed within the request, of course, you could directly move the request to close. And of course, if the request has a dependency, and once all of the dependencies are completed, you could close the request. Then you have my favorite functionality, which is the manual close and automated close, where, of course, a technician, when handling the request, will have his uh, request switch to the resolve status, right? And once the user has acknowledged that, he could then go ahead and put it in the close status. But what if the requester doesn't reply in any case, and the request just stays in the resolve status? You could just use the automated close, set the amount of days. So after the request elapses in the resolve status for over 4 days, the request gets automatically closed. Then also we have close request automatically if the approval is denied. So if it's rejected, you need not have it in the same status. You can just enable this option to close it accordingly. So these are all the various automations that we currently have, starting from the creation to the progression and to the closure. And also we have inbuilt notification rules that you could also enable. And this is also available under admin automation notification rules on the left hand side. Yeah. And you can see all of the requester related notifications, all of the technician related notifications that you could probably choose from. You can just enable them, and Services Plus will send an email notification. You can also customize a template, of course, by clicking on customize template. And same as how you saw with the request timer action, you can also add even new variables by clicking on the dollar symbol, and you can just add the variables that correspond to the request value. So yeah, there it is. These are, so you could see that once a request just gets created, the SLA gets added, the technician gets automatically assigned. All of the various field values that would be a pain for me to manually edit is already filled out using business rules. Any notification that I need to send out, a custom notification, I've already sent out using custom triggers, inbuilt notifications sent out using notification rules, and of course, reminders sent out using timer actions. The options are limitless when it comes to automations in Services Plus. So these are all the various ways on how you could get started with Services Plus, of course. And let me go ahead with a quick recap, because as an IT administrator, once again, I have installed Services Plus, and the first thing that I did was make sure that all of my users are imported into the application. Users are imported using AD, LDAP, through CSV, and also manually adding them. I have branched them as sites, so that if I have multiple branches, I can just use them in one instance by using the refer settings and the custom settings to get all of the information in place. I set up the mail server setting to ensure that Services Plus is now accessible for my users to raise requests via email. And also I understood what are the different fields that are available, such as status, priority, what is a priority matrix, and all of these other stuff. Then we saw the various ways you could automate the request request in general using the business rules, the technician auto assign, how do we set up SLAs, and how to send out custom actions using custom triggers, send out reminders using timer actions, and what are the various ways you could automate during closure, and what are the inbuilt notification rules that we offer. Everything is added. So I can now configure Services Plus with the process I have in mind, and using all of the various automations, my life is made much more easier, so that manual process is minimized to a greater extent. And of course, if you have any more questions, you could always feel free to write to us. The email address is, of course, hello@servicesplus.com, or you can send an email directly to me, benedict.j@servicesplus.com. Okay, since there are not more questions yet, so I presume you had an amazing, insightful masterclass session today, where we understood how we can automate certain things and how we can get started in general with Services Plus. So thank you so much for participating once again, to all of you who have joined the meeting. And I hope this meeting was very, very much useful in helping you get started with Services Plus and how you could start with the basic configurations. And of course, if you have any more questions, also feel free to always look into the README and the release notes before you plan every upgrade. And of course, feel free to write to us for any questions or any queries that you currently have. And I think Janssen has another question. He says, I want to add one more email ID notify field. Of course, we can probably do that using scripts, where you could add a new additional field and populate only the emails or the users accordingly and add them. Please write to us directly, and we will help you with that configuration. And Pedro says, ask for my email, and it is benedict.j@zohocorp.com, or you can write it directly to hello@servicesplus.com. Let me quickly show that once again for you guys so you can make a note. So it's benedict.j@zohocorp.com and hello@servicesplus.com. So you can take a quick screenshot of this tab as well, so you can get our email address. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for your time for today. I hope this session was very much insightful and fruitful for you all to get started. And I thank you all for joining this session as well. And I had a good time here. So thank you so much, and have a great day. And feel free to write to us for any issues or queries. All right, bye bye, and have a great day ahead. Yeah, bye bye.